Welcome to another edition of 705 Sports with Jacob Moore, sports analyst. Of course, Dan's here joining me as always. And we also have an awesome interview coming up with some soccer information. Get those kiddies ready for some soccer. Get ready to kick that ball in the net. But we're going to kick off our show.
I'm so hoping that's indoor soccer.
It is indoor soccer.
I'm just thinking about soccer in the middle of December, and so saying we're going to be outside would just not be...
Ice soccer.
Hey, a whole new sport. Watch the kid. What caused your ankle injury?
Wow. But speaking of getting on the ice,
yeah.
We have our poll question for today, which is, would you go to a Greyhound game under these current restrictions? Yes, no, or you're unsure? You might go, you might not.
So the current restrictions, as is set out by the OHL, is if you're going to attend a game effective, I believe it was October 6th, which is the regular season start, you will have to show proof of vaccination. They're running into the same problems that everybody else is running into. What is that proof? Nobody knows. Nobody knows what that is. Everybody's hoping the provincial government steps up and says, here's an app or whatever else. If not, there's a couple of private companies out there that are making apps to help organizations like this. Again, it's going to be difficult to enforce.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to end up, as I said yesterday morning on the morning show, it's going to probably end up at the Supreme Court when it's all said and done.
I think so as well. It's one of these things that it's a tough situation to navigate, and I will say whatever company develops that app, they're going to make some big money.
Whether it be from the provincial government or from private organizations.
Company.
But does that app money come back on the tickets, which are already higher than
that? Yeah, and
because you got to do COVID cleaning stuff going into tickets. Ticket prices are just going to be higher in general.
I think they will be. And just to remind our viewers, you can actually get to a Greyhound game. Again, we have a graphic that'll just go like a little whoosh up on the screen. Am I the transition? Let's see. Look at that. So we'll have our red and white game September the 3rd, our exhibition game on the 5th, and our other exhibition game on the 25th. So this is your first chance to see your Sioux Greyhounds backing on the ice. Now, mind you, these games will not have those vaccine restrictions.
No, they won't. And if you've noticed what the OHL's done with some of their preseason, they've kept a lot of the North teams against North teams, and they've kind of kept that division, so we're not mixing as it is. Regular season, that's impossible.
Well, also, too, that saves a lot of money.
Well, Sudbury's still 3 hours away.
Yeah, but a lot closer than Barrie, which is 6.
Sure. So no, it's kind of neat. They're going to be back on the ice. They're going to be attempting this going forward here.
And I can't wait to get back out and watch my Sioux Greyhounds get back out there. I know we've all been patiently waiting for this, and you know what? People are excited to see them getting back on the ice. This is them back a couple years ago when they were just getting ready for the game. As you can see, we're not going to see as many people around as you do back then, and everyone's going to have to be wearing masks, and everyone's going to have to be vaccinated, and check Lysol. I'm kidding. Don't check Lysol.
No. And it's going to be interesting to see how this goes down and what that first game is going to look like.
Yeah,
both the preseason game and that first home game.
And you know, it's going to be like the CFL, I think, too, where players might look a little rusty to start.
I think so. Teams that look a little bit rusty. Can we say the Lions look rusty? The Blue Bombers looked a little rusty.
They did. So let's get into our recap of week 3 of the Canadian Football League. So this week had some real surprises in it for me. The Elks finally got their offense going to take down the BC Lions, and Michael Riley did not look good. The Toronto Argos, although Nick Arbuckle fumbled the ball 5 times as their starting quarterback, they surprised everyone, including both of us, even though I'm an Argo fan and you're an Argo hater, that they were actually able to beat the Blue Bombers. Calgary Stampeders get their first win of the year, while the Rough Riders... Pardon?
Vernon looked like crap.
He did.
Get to that later.
And we're going to get into that later. And the Rough Riders were able to take down the Red Blacks. R versus R, a couple Pirates. R. But this was an exciting week 3. We had tons of great action. And this would be my pick, at least, for my game of the week. This Argo-Winnipeg game, and I'm not just saying it because I'm an Argo fan, was so much back and forth action with the Argos taking that big lead early, and then Winnipeg storming back. It was an exciting game.
But if you look at the Alouettes game, they were down to the last drive.
That was also incredible.
So that's always the one thing you get with CFL is really exciting football.
You know, in the CFL, over 60% of the games so far have been decided within the last 3 minutes.
And you can't say that for many other leagues.
No, so this was another great game, and you're right, too, about that other one. I guess week 3 was an exciting week.
What's probably already decided, unfortunately for Jays fans, is the fate of their season.
Yeah, it's not looking good.
6.7% chance due to Fangraphs of making the playoffs. I can shine a little bit of good light. I went looking this morning. The two teams that are ahead of them in the wild card, Seattle and Oakland, have a stronger schedule than the Jays do. The Jays have like the fourth weakest schedule going into the last 36 games that they have to play. They're 3.5 back of Seattle. They're 5.5 back in the wild card. So 3.5 back of Oakland and 2.5 back of Seattle for that final wild card. Shockingly enough, but not shockingly enough, the Yankees and Boston are currently those wild card positions.
Not surprising.
Boston's falling. Yankees are surging.
But the Yankees have been up and down all year. They're either hitting dingers or getting striked out.
That's kind of the way the Bronx Bombers have been for about a decade now.
Yeah.
Well, they haven't won. They went a full decade without winning a World Series, which was a little bit strange, and one of the first times they've ever done that. George Springer might be back tonight. That's good news. It looks like Joakim Soria was reinstated, so he's going to be doing his thing into the bullpen and get a little more depth. We have Biggio. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like he's going to be back this year. He hurt his elbow about a week ago. I would be shocked. We got 35 games left, 4.5 weeks. It is what it is. Now, the one thing I do want to bring up while we're still talking baseball, the Dodgers and Padres went to a 5-hour and 49-minute game.
Wow.
That's something MLB was trying to get rid of, was these super long games. It ended after an entertaining pitcher's duel between the starters of a game-tying home run in the 8th inning and a series of base-running blunders. The Dodgers, and they were 16 innings, 489 pitches, 13 intentional walks, twice for the Dodgers to load the bases, they got it at both times, and an intentional balk.
That balk was a really, really weird one.
But it was so that Hendricks wouldn't steal the signs. They thought he was stealing signs. When you're down that way, maybe you do it. And I don't think you'll see it again. This is Jays. Oh, this is last night's game from the Jays.
Yeah, we do have a clip of the actual balk. We can get to that later. And it was just a very weird situation.
Even this game, they got down so big, the bats couldn't catch up. It was not a great game for Ryu. I watched parts of it on and off yesterday when I wasn't chasing fire trucks and police cars.
Yeah, 3 accidents in a couple hours.
There were 7 emergency calls yesterday. But anyway, we're just looking at this is ball. This is they weren't built to make the playoffs this year. If they do, it'll be a bit of a miracle. Make some tweaks, a little bit more pitching. You may have to trade one of the bats to get that pitching. Robbie Ray, you need to bring him back. He is a unrestricted free agent at 30 years old. I don't care what you want to pay him.
Pay him.
Pay him.
Pay me.
It's time for Rogers to decide that this is a team they want to invest in and get there.
But we do have that clip now of that very weird situation at the Dodgers.
This is weird.
This was, honestly, I don't think I've ever seen this before.
Intentional really balks are extremely rare. He actually turns around and he says after striking out the individual that's at the plate here, he turns around and says to his second baseman, "I'm going to balk." He basically tells you see it as he turns around here.
You'll see it. He turns around. This is after
he's going to look right here. He's going to tell his people, "I'm going to balk."
And that is just...
But he did it because Hendricks is sitting out there at second base. They think he's stealing. He can't figure out what signs are going where, who's doing what, because you have to change your signs and somebody to the second base. He was already confused once. He said, screw it, we'll put him on third.
It's not worth it.
There were two out, so it's a risk.
It's a risk, but I guess that's a play you look at.
Okay.
Are we going to see more of that? Because we already see intentional walks.
You see intentional walks to load bases. You see intentional walks to put people on first and second, so a double play in the extra innings. Like this MLB experiment, it looks like it's going to be permanent to shorten the games. May turn out to backfire, just like the shift has for some teams in the long run, because you're going to see these intentional walks get first and second, hit into double play. Okay, you're out of the inning. Like the idea was, now what are you going to do? You're going to ban an intentional walk at the beginning of those extra innings? You can't do that. You're playing with the game too much. Already sticking the international tiebreaker rule, which is something I grew up with playing softball, by putting somebody at second, that's already one way to make it a little bit quicker.
Which is similar to what the NHL did by making overtime 3-on-3.
Right.
But you know what else needs to be shortened?
Our segment?
Our segment needs to be shortened because we got to go to a break. But stay tuned because I have an awesome interview with the Northern Superior Soccer Club, and they have a big announcement involving this season. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to 705 Sports. As I like to do in the second interview, I like to try to get an interview with some local sports and find out what's going on here in Sault Ste. Marie. So I'm joined by 3 members of the NHSC Soccer Club. How's everyone doing today?
Good, thank you.
Very good, thanks.
Awesome. So I would just like to start off by introducing everyone. So we have Paul, Neo, and Cosmo. We're all here just talking about what's going on with the new club going on. I know you guys have an announcement, a big announcement that you found out last night. So let's start off with that.
Sure, I think I'll start it. Last night, Neil Ove was elected as president of NHSC, and we're really excited to bring him on board. Neil's worked with us in the past, and I think I'll let Neil speak on his credentials, but we're very excited in the club for that.
No, for sure. And Neil, I guess if you could just tell me about what your vision is for the club moving forward and everything that you feel you can help with.
Yeah, Jacob, no problem. Our vision really is just to promote the game, get more kids playing the game, having fun playing the game, and sort of like going back to the essence of soccer, of why we all play it, you know, and what we get out of it. And also being able to use the sport as a learning tool for the kids, but most of all just to have fun, get back to the grassroots and to build the club and to just have some fun with it.
And then when you mention getting back to the grassroots, what do you mean by getting back to the grassroots of soccer?
Well, like, you know, for example, you know, currently coaching at university level, we're more at the elite end of soccer where there's more demands. Even I'm just looking from a coach's perspective, just to get back to that grounding, if you know what I mean, of starting out on a soccer journey, young kids starting out, the passion of the game, of why we all get involved in soccer, you know, and the things that soccer can bring kids and coaches, the joy of it, and not losing that vision and creating the environment for kids to thrive in.
Which I feel at that age especially, you're just trying to start to create that passion for the sport, correct?
Absolutely, yeah. You know, I can remember growing up, you know, and that's all we do. Like kids here just, you know, play hockey or whatever it is, that's national sport. Mm-hmm. Back then we're out, we're playing soccer and we're doing it every day, and just have kids to have that joy of the game and to make friends and to build new relationships within that.
Well, I think especially now that's almost more important than it's ever been since, you know, the world's been dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic. I think it is so important to get kids back to, frankly, just being kids.
Yeah, that's a good way to phrase it. Just back being kids in a stressful environment, enjoying the game.
The only ones that actually were able to offer recreational soccer last year because summer season didn't happen, and we were successful at running pretty much almost a full year. We broke our season up into 2 segments and ran full season in the fall, and then a partial season until when we got shut down in the wintertime. Our numbers were a little lower last year than we wanted because of the uncertainty. But then, you know, we could see that they started ramping up in our winter session, and even right now, we've only been taking registrations for about a week now, and numbers look really good, especially on the younger side, which is great to see. You know, because that's what's going to build the club. The more younger people we have, that's going to you know, drive the club in the future.
Well, exactly. It really is so important to get the youth interested in the sport, and especially such a great game like soccer. And then with the registration, what are some key notes that parents need to know before registering their kids for the soccer season?
The biggest thing are the playing nights for each of the age groups, which is on our website. So that's important to them because they have to balance other things. and other schedules. So that'll be important to them. And the registration is online. So if they're not sure which division that they're signing up for, the system does it on its own. As soon as you enter the birth year, it automatically puts them in the correct division.
And in terms of what the kids need, they just need to have some energy, and they all do that. And all they need, we supply everything but the shin pads and the shoes. So they'll come there with some form of running shoe or cleats for the turf. And for the younger ones, we usually even supply some balls out there. So it's a lot of fun. If you haven't seen it or been to the facility in the West End, that's the NCC. It's a fantastic facility, and the kids have a great time. And we're very fortunate to have them coming back. They don't tend to leave the program once they start, because there's a lot of fun and a lot of learning, and it's just great for the parents and the kids.
Well, exactly. It really is, especially when you're emphasizing on just having fun and learning the passion for the sport. And when you talk about learning it, what are types of things you will learn while participating in this camp?
So for the minis, the U6, under 6 and under 8, there's a lot more skill development, in terms of anything from learning how to dribble the ball to just playing some games on the field and running around with soccer ball. It's not always about having to develop those skills immediately. It's more about, we want the kids to want to come to play and run around. And from that, then we start developing skills. As you move up the age groups to U8 and then U10, U12, you start having games. But in the U6 group, there's more just getting organized and running some minimal skill events. And then as they get older, we develop into more higher skill events and then games. And by the time they're U12, U10, U12, they're playing games as they would in any league.
Now, a question I'd love to come back to when we talk about when they get into a game, and I know you mentioned how you were able to still run a full successful year last year. Are there going to be some restrictions still due to the COVID-19 pandemic? Like, what's going to be different from last year's to this year's?
Well, we're mandated by Algoma Public Health, so we have to wait on what they tell us. But currently, in terms of the game itself, there are no restrictions. We play normal games on the field. The only restrictions we currently have is the social distancing,
right?
And only one parent per child. Otherwise, the game itself hasn't changed. And we were very, very fortunate last year to run a full first season and almost a full second half of the season. And cross our fingers, because it's really important for these kids to get out there, not just run around and play, but they socialize. A lot of these kids, they haven't been in school, so being out there with their friends playing is really important to their development.
Well, it really is, and especially too, I myself played a lot of sports when I was younger, and it even teaches you those team building skills and leadership skills that you're going to use on and off the soccer pitch.
Mm-hmm. Very true. You see it all the time. Neil's a coach at the higher level, and a lot of those skills those players have came from when they were younger and developing.
And then just one other thing, I guess, then just before I let you go, is there anything else that you wanted to add in this interview to send to the viewers back at home?
And just welcome Neil again, and looking forward to establishing more pathways in the community, because we're about having kids have fun and play soccer and enjoy the sport. So anytime we can give them a pathway, and with people with Neil's background and skills, being a coach at the university, as well as all his other credentials, it's fantastic for the parents to get that opportunity to have their child have fun. And, possibly in the future we'll look affiliating with other groups as well, just giving them more opportunity for the kids. So soccer's about fun. We want them to have fun, and if you want your child to run around and get some exercise during these times, it's a great place to be.
Just to remind the viewers at home, registration does close Monday, September the 20th, so make sure you get those registrations in right away. If you have any questions or concerns about anything, make sure to head over to their website, which will be on a graphic below. I want to thank everyone for coming in for this interview. I really do appreciate it, and we'll be right back with more 705 Sports right after this commercial break.
On TV News, supported by James Seaton Mortgage Specialist. Your new home doesn't come with mortgage advice. I do. Call James Seaton Mortgage Specialist, RBC 705-975-1519.
thank you to our sponsors for going over the show. This is Friday's edition of 705 Sports. It's the only weekly edition of 705 Sports. That's just the tiredness talking. We're coming back with this segment. We're going to do some CFL preview stuff. We're starting with the Alouettes versus Tiger Cats. My Tiger Cats, which really, really, really need a win.
They do.
And if Vernon plays the way that he did last week, that shouldn't be a problem.
They might get it.
But Vernon's a perfectionist. He went into the lab, according to his tweet there from Monday. He has to be better for his guys. He has to go back to the lab. Well, they explained a little bit what back to the lab for him means. He went and watched that game against Stampeders 3 times, just by himself, to critique himself. He's taking it to the practice field. They're saying his receivers are seeing the difference already this week in practice. And if the Ticats can't figure out how to throw the ball, it's going to be a long night.
Now, mind you, though, the Ticats have a bit of a change in quarterbacks this week. We have a graphic that we can, let's see, can I get it? There we go. So, the Hamilton Tiger Cats have to go with Dane Evans tonight. The reason why I say have to is Masoli has sore ribs from the last game and he can't go. Evans last year...
He got hit enough times last game.
Oh my gosh, I know. But you know what? Evans last year still had a solid year, throwing 72% of his passes and 22 touchdowns. I mean, like, he is a solid quarterback, so Hamilton needs to find a way to get him and Brandon Banks to start getting the deep ball going again, because that's their move.
If you listen to Ticat fans down in Hamilton, Evans is the person they wanted to start this season. They wanted him to be the number one go-to guy.
It's who I would have started personally.
And this is going to become, if he wins tonight, and he wins big, heck, even if he just wins in general, he's going to cause a bit of a controversy down in Hamilton.
Well, exactly. He's going to. I mean, it's just one of those things that we're just going to have to see if they can end up getting their game going or not. And this is where, you know what, Hamilton's just got to figure out what they need to do to start winning some games again, because they're just not winning, and it's becoming a major, major problem.
I didn't want to think they might be the last team in the league, but if they don't win tonight...
If they go 0-3,
it's a long way back to the playoffs.
And especially in that last game, you really felt they should have won that game against Calgary, because that was a game where Calgary was playing a rookie quarterback and they couldn't get the job done. That's very disappointing for Hamilton.
And the Owls, one of the things that was mentioned over the week when I was watching some of the coverage, Owls defense met without the coaches, by themselves as a unit, and critiqued their own performance last week.
Which is huge.
Which is huge. You don't see players usually putting in that extra bit. You know what I mean?
No. So that's something I agree with you. That is very, very, very important for teams to figure out what they're going to do to try to win some games. But now let's move on to our Saturday night contest, which we have the Red Blacks versus the Lions. Now, this is one here. The Red Blacks, do we have an issue with their quarterback, Matt Nichols? I have an issue with Matt Nichols. I find he is not getting the offensive game that he is hoping to. If you're looking here so far this season in the 3 games, he's only thrown for 247 yards. That is a major, major problem. There is a typo there on Michael Riley. He has not thrown for almost 7,000 yards. He's thrown for 732. But even comparing 732 in 3 games comparing to 247, and I think my big issue is Matt Nichols of the Ottawa Red Blacks does not look confident. No. He's in the pocket, he looks nervous, he won't go for that deep ball whatsoever, and it is becoming a major, major problem for Ottawa. So is it time to start Davis, their backup quarterback?
I don't know. Something I saw coming out of week 1, 97 yards. They won. But that is for a season opener, we're the fewest ever for a winning team in CFL.
Oh, wow.
Putting that into perspective, just out of the weird stats for CFL, and it just comes occasionally across our desk, since 1958, that represents the lowest offensive output by a victorious team in exactly 4,610 CFL games played through week 3 of 2021.
Wow.
They set a record. I'm not sure that's the record they wanted to set, but they did set a record.
That is not the record that you want to set, and I'm just looking at it here. I think the BC Lions are going to be looking to push that ball forward like crazy. And Ottawa, you need to find a way. You need to get RJ Harris the ball more. And I think Matt Nichols needs to... I think this might be his last chance as the starting quarterback right now.
He doesn't do this. BC is not the best team.
They're not.
They have a decent defense, which we didn't expect. But let's just... Ottawa, Nichols, you need to win this, or you're probably going to be on the pine.
You really do. And you know what? With the Viz that's coming up here, this is just a perfect segue for our final game, which is going to be the Blue Bombers versus the Stampeders. A game that early going into the season you might have thought might have been a heavyweight battle, but instead we have a heavyweight versus a lightweight. With Calgary, they looked a heck of a lot better last game.
Right. But you're going up against a defense if you're Calgary that's given up 14.3 points per game.
But 30 last week against the Argos.
It still averages out early to 14.3
Yes.
per game. It is by far the best defense in the league.
It is, but at the same time, too, they also have a pretty solid offense. As you can see there, they're getting the job done through the air. Bradley Oliveira was on our graphic the past few weeks, not now, because he had that one breakout game, and after that, the Blue Bombers have not really been using him. It's been all about Zach Collaros bombing that ball deep. Already has thrown 6 touchdown throws.
But watch what Calgary ran into last week near the end of the game there. They could not protect the quarterback.
No.
It is modus operandi for Bombers defense to go after the quarterback. That is what they do. That is a staple of their defense. It's been a staple of their defense for years. They've just gotten better with Willie Jefferson and Jackson Jeffcoat going after the quarterback. If they're going to put that pressure, you're going to be in trouble.
Well, especially even when you go back to the Blue Bombers game last week, even though they lost, they had Arbuckle fumble the ball 5 times officially, 6 times arguably. So, it's one of those things that you are right. The Blue Bombers are a team that they will just attack you. The Argos figured out a way around it. Can the Stampeders?
What did we say at the beginning of the year?
Eggs.
Ball control, that too. But ball control is going to be what determines the CFL.
Yes.
Your defense is going to be there, but keeping the ball and keeping the turnovers low. For the first couple of weeks, the turnovers weren't hurting teams.
Now
they're starting to be to that point where we are starting to hurt when the ball is turned over, which is the way it's supposed to be. You're supposed to pay for turnovers, especially when they're deep in your own end.
Well, exactly.
A lot of and it's all about location and everything else, right? So, what was your take going now 3 weeks into CFL? What do you think needs to happen, needs to change?
So right now, I think my biggest concern would be the offensive lines on pretty much every team needs to wake up. You're looking at the way quarterbacks are getting constantly hit hard with these blitzes, even if they're getting rid of the ball.
Rib
they're
injuries.
Getting Exactly. You look at Masoli already with a leg injury. You already have Bolivar Mitchell with a broken leg. And, it's just going to keep going and going. Mike McLeod, Bethel Thompson, one of the reasons why he didn't play in that last game was he just had overall body soreness.
So is this the CFL teams realizing that defense wins championships, which is something that the NFL figured out a long time ago?
I think so.
Or is this the teams not investing in an offensive line?
Could be a bit of both.
Because protection, especially blindside protection in this league, seems to be lacking.
I agree with you. And when I'm watching the games myself, I'm seeing it where teams are so focused on doubling one guy at the defensive line. Perfect example would be Bigfoot from the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. That guy is a tank. So they all go to him, but then they forget about everyone else at the defensive line who are also tanks, and they are just plowing over your quarterback. And what's it's doing, you're not able to do any more play actions because by the time you try to do a play action, you're already getting hammered.
Could you imagine a Peyton Manning in the CFL trying to sit back in the pocket and not move?
Wouldn't work.
Every CFL quarterback is mobile.
They are.
They just need to be a little bit more mobile or get a little bit more protection, because that's just where we need to see that step up.
But you know what? That's one thing I love about the CFL so much more than the NFL, because the CFL is a blitzing, hard, in-your-face game. You don't get it where a quarterback like a Tom Brady, for an example, can just go and move the ball 3 yards, and then move the ball another 3 yards. The CFL is so much more exciting and fast-paced because of the way the game is played.
And that pressure, it's a good thing the field is a little bit wider, because sometimes you need it to get away.
Yes.
Throwing balls back across the field, I don't know what league you're in. I saw a couple of those, and a couple got picked off. Mm-hmm. You just don't do that. That's amateur, that's college ball stuff. Here's hoping that some of the teams clean that up. But what we also have to clean up is our desk.
We gotta go.
We're at the end of our segment. We want to thank our sponsors again for helping us out with this show, and thanks for being here again this week, Jacob. And
thank you for joining me again.
However that works at this point in time, it's been a week.
It has been a week. What a week!
And actually, we can agree that. Wowzers, yeah.
But actually, you know what? We still have 30 seconds. Let's quickly. What is your most excited game for the week this week?
I gotta watch my Ticats.
Gotta watch it. You know what? I'm also the most intrigued about the Ticats this week. I think of that
They
change
have
in
to
quarterback. They are really going to make a difference. But you know what? We have something that we do similar to quarterbacks.
Throw interceptions with paper.
Yes. All right. So thanks very much for watching, guys. And we will see you next week.